Well, hey guys, this is Peckernet Ryan Debar. I've not made very many videos lately, and I haven't mentioned my birthplace, Clarksburg, West Virginia, one time this year in a video. I've just had other things on my mind, and when something does come to mind, it's just not worth wasting your time on. It's been 2 years now since I moved to Germany, and during this time, I haven't owned a car. I take the money that I would spend on car maintenance and car payments, insurance, and I travel with that money instead. In my experience, seeing cities entirely on foot, on boat in Venice, but mostly on foot, made me think of something for Clarksburg that I actually think is worth sharing in a video. There's currently discussion and debate about what to do with some unused school properties in Clarksburg. I don't really want to focus on that debate. I'll just say, in my opinion, those buildings got free police fire protection from the city for over a century. You talk about fiduciary duty, all that you want, but the school board gets most of its money from property taxes, and almost a quarter of Harrison County's population lives in the city limits of Clarksburg. If those school properties are sold to someone who lets them fall into ruin, like the other ones did, it will affect future property tax revenue. And also, the environment that children live in affects their academic performance. Government should not be run like a business because it provides valuable services that a business cannot. They don't need to make a profit. There's more to life than dollars and cents. And sometimes, when you pinch pennies, it costs you more in other ways in the long run. The city says they want to build a sports facility at Hite Field to compete and contrast with what Bridgeport has. For those of you unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, Bridgeport is a wealthy suburb of an old, decaying post-industrial Rust Belt coal mining town. I appreciate that word contrast because there's just no way that Clarksburg can compete with Bridgeport directly. The last time I looked 5 years ago, Bridgeport had over $40 million just sitting in the bank. And for a while earlier this year, Clarksburg had no working fire engines. That's night and day difference in the amount of money available to each town. Hite Field already has football fields, soccer fields, baseball fields. Talking about American football, of course. Some buildings might need to be rebuilt, but there shouldn't be any need for a lot of earth moving because it's already there, it's already in place. However, in one important way, Hite Field is similar to the bridge. That's Bridgeport Sports Complex. They're both hard to get to. They're both isolated from the main city. Bridgeport's case, they built their sports complex way out on the edge of town, near the airport, and the roads to it don't have any sidewalk or any room for sidewalks. Hite Field is actually in the center of Clarksburg, but it's disconnected from the town, and I'm going to show you a picture. There it is, close proximity to hundreds of houses and even the edge of downtown Clarksburg. I took a screen capture of Google Maps. The red pinpoint is Hite Field. Across the river is a neighborhood called Staley. And to the northeast, top right corner of the map, is the edge of downtown Clarksburg. It's in the center of a town, but there's no really good way to get there on foot. And car access is limited to two narrow one-way streets, Harvey and Frederick Street. It's isolated, but fortunately, it's not really a hard problem to fix, and the fix would make everything better. There's an old railroad line that runs along the east side of the river. I've outlined it in red, and you can see down at the bottom, there's a trailhead for the Southern Harrison County bike trail. I think that runs all the way at least to the county line, if not another 20, 30 miles to the town of Weston. On the other side of the river, there's also an old streetcar line. However, turning the old railroad network into bike trails is one of the focuses of the Harrison County Commission. In fact, the town of Shinston got money from the state of West Virginia to restore their part of an old railroad. If we were to extend that Southern Harrison County bike trail from the current railhead up to US 19 along the path I've highlighted. It would wrap right around the edge of Hite Field. However, it still won't be accessible to that many people. So here's my idea: bridges and steps. I'm going to hope that my itchy and scratchy throat holds out here. I've drawn some orange lines to show a secondary route from Lower Staley across a couple bridges into the Liberty Addition, following the old streetcar line there, and then another bridge to the VA Park. And when I say bridges, I'm thinking steel and concrete bridges that could last decades, withstand floods, and have the endpoints up out of the flood zone. You put bollards at the end of them to prevent the teenage boys from riding their dirt bikes and ATVs onto them. It can be done. And the lighter orange I've showed where steps could be placed. The steps near the Staley Park would be very steep. There have been, in recent memory, a set of wooden steps there that were very steep. However, I don't think they were maintained, and they've probably collapsed now. They head down to the old streetcar line, and then from there they would tie into the rest of the trail that I laid out here. And then near downtown Clarksburg, you could build a set of steps up to the Oddfellow Cemetery and connect in there. I know that there's concerns with Americans with Disabilities Act, and in Europe, sometimes they build ramps right into the stairs for people to use baby carriages, luggage, even wheelchair users could utilize them. However, they're probably too steep to meet American law, and it's unfortunate, but I think it's just not practical to build elevators or stairs here, especially the ones there near the Staley Park. That hill is just, it's a little bit unstable, and it's very steep. I've marked in purple near the bridge, the top bridge, where there's a mine portal near the West Fork River. I think that needs to be remediated. It might be leaking and might be causing some subsidence along the ridge. But once that's done, you could set a marker up and highlight some of Clarksburg's past and show the young people, you know, what was here once upon a time and how this city popped up and why it popped up. Everybody will want to know, what does this cost? I don't honestly know. I looked into what the cost of these bridges would be, and I'm guessing maybe $600,000 a piece. And then so for the steps and the path, maybe $3-4 million for the whole thing. But I do think it could be partially offset with state and county money for the rail trail. But I would like to remind you that this same city council wanted to spend $600,000 on a splash pad in another park. You could build a bridge with that. A previous council spent $3 million on a swimming pool, and that was 15 years ago. It would probably be $5 million today. $3 million for a pool that's open maybe 3 months a year. A pool that's too expensive for most of the city or the families in town, and primarily serves people who don't live in the town. You know, on the other hand, $3 million for these paths could be used almost year round, except major ice or snowstorms, and they would raise the property values of every home near it. The increase in property taxes alone would offset at least some of the cost. And for those of you who don't care about walking, well, I have to drive to this. This wouldn't benefit me at all. It would if you drive there, because every person who walked to Hite Field is a car you wouldn't have to fight getting out of the parking lot after whatever game or event you went to. I went to the Hite Field to watch football games when I was in high school, and I know what a nightmare it was to get out of that place. The streets are not adequate there. This, to me, just seems like one of the easiest wins you could get. If everything got built, a person could get from Lower Staley to the VA Park on foot in around 20 minutes, where you could get from the VA Park straight into downtown Clarksburg in about 30 minutes. And it could be done on relatively flat land, on foot, on good terrain, and away from cars and trucks speeding and spewing out fumes. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Have a good one. I'll holler at you later.